Great. Hello once again. It's Kurume here. And welcome to yet another episode of Car Talk with Kurume. So today we'll be delving into something that's I think it's a big topic for me. Actually, it's two things. We'll be talking about how bakkies have evolved over time and whether bakkies being built for lifestyle purposes has compromised the bakkie as we know it today. Also, we'll be looking at what do you call this thing? I refer to them as nipachacha. this cheap cars which are gradually starting to come into the market. Actually, it started, I think, maybe 2-3 years back when we had the likes of the Datsun Go's, your Renault Quids, and all of them coming to the market. So I'll just quickly touch on them and highlight some of my concerns around them, some of the designs, specs, general, safety features and the likes. So to jump right into it, let's look at bakkies, your Toyota Hilux, your Ford Ranger, your Mitsubishi Triton, your, which one am I forgetting, or your VW Amarok. So for me, it's a bit of a concern how these cars have been evolving over time, because bakkies have been known as those rugged vehicles that you just get in and then you can hit the outback, you can do whatever you can with it, or whatever you wish to do with it, within limits, of course. But over time, it seems like now bakkies have now become soft. They are now being built so that they can suit, this lifestyle kind of purpose where now you are using them in town. There's now too many electronics. It's not like before where you can just take it, thrash it, and then pack it at home and you have no issues. Now it's a nightmare. It's almost as if now you're driving a luxury SUV disguised as a bakkie, because just to give you an example, something like what do you call this thing? Let's look at the Hilux and the Ranger, for example. I think the Hilux is still, still more on the rugged side. But I think if you were to compare something like the 3-liter D4Ds, the ones that you got before the current GD6, you can feel even when you're driving the D4D that it's a bit more rugged, it's more robust. Whereas the 2.8, it still maintains some of that ruggedness and robustness, but you can tell now it's a bit more on the softer side. It's meant to now, cater for people who want to do some off-roading from time to time, but then at the same time, they want something that they can live with every day, which is fair. And just as a side note, I think Toyota's probably one of the brands that is getting that balance right. Whereas now when you come to the Ranger, I feel like really Rangers have become too soft over time. I think now Ranger is now, when you think of a Ranger, you'd like to think of an Amarok as well, because really I think the Amarok, when it came in, you can, even the way it looked, it's a car that I used to refer to as a baggy matatsanza, it's those baggies for those guys, they just get it simply because they can afford to get it. But really the off-road capabilities, it can do it, but I think, it cannot really take that abuse and that punishment that the likes of your Hilux and your Rangers and the others could take, So for that reason, I think, something like a Ranger and something like an Amarok is what you get if, you really won't be pushing and, doing some very tricky terrains often. But I must say they are really, really nice, to drive on the road. The road handling capabilities are out of this world. You will not catch up with those things on the road, even with a sedan or SUV or something a bit smaller, So then, that's just my 2 cents on that one. So now the question becomes how should things be, going forward? What can we possibly expect from some of these manufacturers going forward? Are we now going to have a case where now you get that these bakkies are virtually have no or little to no off-road capabilities, or is it going to be a case of them having to make a U-turn? Because I mean, if you look at something like a Land Cruiser, that 45 series, if you get a 2020 model, it looks like a 1990 model. It still maintains the ruggedness. They didn't change anything. Albeit, I think the safety it's another question, But yeah, it has a fair amount of airbags. But I think, let me not digress. So then another point that I had pointed out at the beginning was, the cheap cars, if I can put it that way, or this entry-level cars, because I think that segment has moved up over the years. At some point, Polo was referred to as an entry-level car. Nowadays, you pay a good 400K for a nice 1-liter R-Line. So I think we have moved up, So as a result, then that market started opening up, That's when now the likes of your Datsun Gos, your Renault Quids, and most recently the Bajaj, the Bajaj Cute. It's not actually a car, it's a quadricycle. It is one cylinder, eh? But yeah, so look, I have nothing against those cars. In fact, I love them. I think a few years back, I drove a Suzuki Celerio, Nice, small, quirky little thing, And it handled fairly well. The road handling was not terrible, And that's where I think, that's where I think the standard should be. That's where I think the bar should be set, To say, okay, it's fine. You want to make a cheap car, but at least ensure that you tick all the boxes. I think for me, number one would be general design, make it to be safe. It doesn't help to make a car that has a compromised structural integrity and then put 18 airbags inside of it. Because the moment you get into a collision, the structural integrity is going to let you down. I think, and then obviously general practicality of it, reliability and longevity, So then the other thing, let's be honest. In SA, the so-called entry-level cars, which are meant to be used in the city, we take them, they become Grand Touras. At some stage, Polo used to say the city car. Now we take it across provinces. Do a good 1,000 kilometers in a day, So if for that kind of, application, you want something that, will give you peace of mind. In terms of safety, in terms of reliability and all of that. I don't imagine, a Bajaja, taking it across, different provinces, doing, the maximum speed, I think it's 70, 80 kilometers an hour there. How long will it take you? And let's be honest, basic amenities like your air conditioners, they should just come as, no questions asked. But a Bajaja, you get a basic fan. So really, I think that's just something we need to go back and really look at and say, look, okay, it's fine. You can come with your entry-level car, but at least ensure that you tick all the right boxes. Okay, just take off this. I think, it's messing up the lighting there. Yeah. So I think I'll just quickly go back, and jump into the subject of bakkies or the revolution thereof. Because, the bakkie market is highly saturated and very competitive. So I think that's why then I thought to myself, but wait, we have so many bakkies available out there, but are they really better bakkies? Or is it just a case of having a lot of bakkies that effectively do the same thing or don't do what they need to do? Because, I'm not against progress. I'm not against, having this nice CCTs, your cruise control, all these nice things that you'd want in an off-road vehicle. But the reality is, the more electronics you add in a vehicle, the more complicated it gets. And old school buggy drivers will tell you, the easier it is, the better, because there are some people, they buy Toyotas, they stay there in the farm, they fix everything themselves there. They never need to visit the dealership. And now I tell you, I'm Amarok, Ranger, it breaks down on the side of the road. You're calling road assist. You're not going to do anything to that thing. It's just overly complicated, And it being overly complicated, it makes it nice and easier to live with. So it's a bit of a conundrum, you know. It's a case where now you need to choose your struggle, because really it's not everyone who can afford something like a Land Cruiser. And I think a Land Cruiser is an extreme. It's built to be tough. It's built to be rugged, but living with it every day, because I mean the interior, whew, it's atrocious, to say the least. They can do better. It reminds me of a stallion. The stallion, you know, the stallion, the Avenger. Land Cruiser, that 45 series. It looks like a slab. I don't know. It's just like, you know, it's just like somebody, it was designed with a ruler, that one, you know. it looks like it was designed with a ruler. And, you know, so then people, they want that, but really, they want something that, you know, you get inside, you're like, this is nice, so soft touch here and there. But I'm telling you, Land Cruiser is designed to be tough. So hence, it looks the way it does. You know, it was not meant for aesthetics, but it was meant, you know, for longevity, you know. So I think that's where now it goes back to say, but okay, where do we strike the balance? Where do we draw the line, you know? And do we need to take a step back? Or do we need to dial it down? Do we need to perhaps, you know, get some, what do you call it, maybe have a sample to say, okay, we look at this generation of bakkies versus the new generation. Was this generation better than this new generation? Because one thing you shouldn't get, you know, I shouldn't also get twisted, is the fact that there are two things. You can have a better bakkie, you can have a better car, you know. Some bakkies are better cars, but they're not necessarily better bakkies, you know. So that is where this whole conversation stems from. Just talking about the fact that some bakkies, yes, they're improving over time, but in the process of improving, they are sort of becoming compromised, you know. So really, I'm open to comments. I'm open to engagements, you know, whether you think, you know, I'm totally crazy or, you know, but I think it's definitely something to think about, you know, because really, I've looked around and I must say I'm a bit concerned, you know, because at some stage I think maybe I'd want to own a bakkie. Then now the question becomes, at that time, you know, will it still fulfill what I wanted to do? Or will I now need to get something that is 10 years old, you know, because the one that will be there at the time really will just be too sophisticated, you know. So, yeah, I mean, really, I think I'll pack it there for now. I really look forward to your engagements, your comments. And, yeah, let's do this. See you next time.
I know you killed it. Every night you talk.
Yeah?